Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and welcome back to another episode of the Unbearable Sports Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Also, if you're listening to the show, make sure to rate us 5 stars. This month, we are donating $1 for every single 5-star review we get out there on Spotify. So even if you don't listen to podcasts, and if you have a Spotify account, just search for Unbearable Sports. I think you have to follow the show, and then you can rate us a 5 stars, and then I will donate an extra $1. I think we're up to $21 or $22, so not bad. So I'm excited about that. But guys, welcome on back. We're going to be breaking down, I think, the 14th day of training camp. You kind of lose track. So what we're going to be breaking down is some of the news, some of the headlines, how did the offense look, and how did the defense look. So I was going to have Thomas Loper from Twitter on. You might have seen some of his posts out there. If you aren't following him, make sure to follow him. I'm posting it out right now inside of the chat for those out on Twitch and YouTube. But he is a great follow, goes to pretty much every single training camp out there for the Chicago Bears. And he posts this amazing thread of just what you missed. And it's just absolutely incredible. If you're looking for a lot of that news, definitely follow him. He was supposed to be here today, but he wasn't able to make it. So him being the nice guy that he is, he ended up sending me his own personal notes over, and I will be breaking that down today. So we'll be talking, what did Tom see out there, and just kind of what was good and what was bad, kind of like what we usually do. But before we get into this, we have to break down the news. The NFLPA, or the NFL, has actually sent out an alert to all the teams in the NFL that Saint Omni is not a registered NFLPA agent. And who is Saint Omni, you might ask? It's this fake person who is going out and calling up NFL executives and kind of gauging their interest in one Roquan Smith. So right now, a lot of people, as you can imagine, are saying it's probably just Roquan Smith, just under a different name or with a little voice change or something like that. But this is seriously one of the weirdest stories that we've heard. Roquan, just get an agent. Like seriously, just get an agent. If we can hopefully just move on, and hopefully somebody can just negotiate a deal for you and we can get this done. Because something that's difficult is, since he doesn't have an agent, he can't, as in Roquan Smith, can't negotiate a trade. Think about it when we traded for Khalil Mack. As soon as we traded for Khalil Mack, what happened? Here's the deal, $20 million right after we traded the first round picks, because it was already pre-negotiated before he was traded over. Because Roquan represents himself, he can't do that. So there is going to be no deal. If he gets traded away, they have to negotiate it out there. So it really does lower his stock for anybody that is looking to trade for Roquan Smith. So please, Roquan, the bottom of all of our Bears fan hearts, just get an agent so we can get this over with, get this done with, and we can see you in a Bears uniform, or we can see some good draft compensation or something, because this is going on for far too long. But let's get into training camp, shall we? So let's get this thing started off with the offense. So the offense is the big storyline of today. From what has been reported, there was no pads on. So as we know about the no pads, then this should be, the offensive line should not look as good as the defensive line. And that's kind of what happened today. But before we go into too much of the depth on the on just the overall pass rush, Velus Jones Jr., Cole Kmet, they are now back. So they were out. So hopefully they will be there on Thursday. It's a quick turnaround time. It's going to be very interesting to see with this coaching staff, how quickly can they get everybody ready. Yes, it's preseason, but it'll be a nice little situation that they have to go through this week. But they were looking good. They were looking healthy. But really what Thomas sent over to me was that the offense started off and won early. So it sounded like we won the red zone drills. He has listed 2 touchdowns to Darnell Mooney, one on a slant, and the other on a wide receiver screen with a great block from Equinemius St. Brown. Sounded like overall good in the red zone, which is what we wanted to see. Okay, so good production from Justin Fields in the red zone. But then later on, he wrote, the struggles began after that. They started off hot early, but then the defense essentially took over. And what Thomas was quoted in saying is Braxton Jones's worst day of camp. Now, does this mean he's a bust? No. Does this mean he's probably going to start on Thursday? Yeah. It just means that he had a bad day at camp. It seemed like that Robert Quinn probably had about 5+ sacks. Like he was just absolutely incredible today, absolutely blazing fast. Maybe because he didn't actually do anything on Saturday, but he came out with a head of steam and just absolutely dominated. So I want to just kind of read this quote that Thomas sent over. And he was saying that Braxton Jones, he needed this. I love the cliche iron sharpens iron, but it's true. Jones needed an ass whooping to keep his motor in check. I bet he learns a lot from the film today and responds against the Seahawks on Thursday. I love that. That's great to know about Braxton Jones. And yeah, it's nice to get your butt whooped every now and again because, especially if you're a rookie, it's kind of that welcome to the NFL. So yeah, no concerns about Braxton Jones. We liked him on Saturday. We liked what we saw out of him. So just continue to stack some practices and come back stronger. Now, tomorrow's day is actually private, so it's not going to be open to the public. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that day because they might have pads on. Not sure about that 100%. But overall, though, just the offensive line, there were struggles. Mustipher snapped the ball when Fields wasn't ready, leading to a fumble. Not pretty. They seem like they're out of sync, and Lucas Patrick can't come back soon enough. Also, wide receivers struggled to create separation in the 2-minute drill. And Thomas was also quoted and kind of talking about how he didn't necessarily, it was hard to say who won, the defensive backs or the wide receivers. Just overall, the feeling was that the wide receivers were not creating separation as a whole. But yeah, there was a handful of miscues with the wide receivers and running backs. And so there were some poor assignments. Then overall, though, the line wasn't getting a lot of push on outside runs today. Again, it was a poor day for the tackles, and Komet's blocking is missed out there as well. So overall, not a great day for this offensive line. It just seemed like they were constantly in the face of Justin Fields. But also, too, some other reports were that Justin Fields, yes, people were in his face, but it allowed him to at least make some quicker decisions. Also, something that was interesting, Luke Getsy kind of talked about this a little bit in his interview. He kind of chatted and said that he kind of needs to sit in the pocket a little bit more. And this might be because he might be seeing some ghosts. And we don't really blame him because overall, if I'm getting drilled by people all the time because my offensive line can't block anybody, then I'm going to be seeing ghosts. I'm going to be a little bit jittery. So I'm hoping that overall, this line, please, we need to put this thing together. And a good reason for this that might be a shining light at this is number 76, Tevin Jenkins. Because inside of this report, it's saying Tevin Jenkins didn't lose a single rep at the right guard spot today. Tevin Jenkins looking good. Now, the Bears have played Teven Jenkins or practiced with Teven Jenkins at that right guard spot, but no one's really seen this in team drills. Now, Teven Jenkins, they shifted him inside of team drills for the first time. And he was with the second team, and everyone is saying he's looking good. And we go back to when Teven Jenkins was drafted by the Bears. People saying this guy is a right guard. This guy is not a tackle. And this is just some of the draft experts out there that were saying he's huge, move him in at guard. Now, after seeing Schofield, I'm not here to write him off. He didn't play well at that right guard spot on Saturday. But I think that Teven Jenkins, moving him over to the right guard spot is probably the best thing that the Bears can do. Larry Bourne, we know what he is. A solid swing tackle that you love as your backup. If he's your starter, you don't hate him. But Tevin Jenkins is the guy with the potential. And if he can be better than Schofield, play the best five people. You bring back Lucas Patrick, you bring back, you put in Teven Jenkins as that starting guard. This offensive line is going to look interesting with Riley Reif at that right tackle. This might be a good offensive line if you end up doing that. So I'm excited to see this. That's tomorrow. We're going to be breaking down who to watch for. Can guarantee you, Teven Jenkins is going to be at the top of that list because I think that this right guard position change, some might see as a demotion. I think this is you're putting him in the right spot to make plays. I'm all for it. I'm excited about it, and I hope that this benefits this young man's career. But let's go over to the defense. Now, Duke Shelley, Kyler Gordon are back. Kyler Gordon also was quoted in saying that he thinks that he is going to be starting, or pretty much seemed confident that he was going to be playing on Thursday. So we want to see that. We want to see him. And right now, he's looking like he's going to be in the slot. Currently, Lamar Jackson is playing with the number ones and as that outside player. Remember, Kindle Vildor still banged up. Tavon Young still banged up. So right now, Kyler Gordon looks like the starting slot, even though Duke Shelley did take some reps with the ones at that slot position. That doesn't mean that Kyler Gordon's not going to be a starter. Kyler Gordon is going to be a starter. He's got that spot, but they wanted to just see Duke Shelley at slots and then also probably have Kyler Gordon on the outside a little bit. But Lamar Jackson, yet again, still that starting guy. I think that he's almost trying to become a lock for the roster. It's going to be very interesting, but he's been playing very solid out there. But let's also talk about Robert Quinn. Like we were saying before, Robert Quinn dominated. It seemed like he got 3-4 sacks. That's what Thomas counted, 3 to 4 sacks for Quinn alone. But overall, this defensive edge group just dominated these offensive tackles today. Riley Reif was in. It wasn't good, but guys, there was no pads. There was no pads. And I got to say, if you're going, hard nose, you're popping some people, and then you go with no pads, yeah, I'm going to be letting people by too. So nothing to be concerned about, but not a good day of practice if you're just constantly letting up sacks. But guys, this is what I'm excited about next. I think this is what all Bears fans, what we're excited about. And that is Jack Sanborn and DeMarquis Gates practicing with the twos. Now, Sanborn, we've seen actually with the ones at that Sam linebacker position because that was kind of a little competition early on in camp. Bears pretty much were like, okay, Matt Adams, you pretty much got this, or Joe Thomas, you pretty much got this. But this combination of Sanborn and Gates, not saying this is the next greatest linebacker pairing of all time. I'm just excited about this because you have two undrafted guys that can be on this roster, and I'm excited about it. They were two of the highest graded defensive players by PFF. It's one game, yes. We're going to see them again soon. But these guys can play. Right when the Bears picked up Sanborn, we on this show instantly said, this guy's good because we've seen him. I literally have a Wisconsin Cup right next to me. I live in Wisconsin. I have a lot of family that goes to Wisconsin. We watch a lot of Badger football. Jack Sanborn is good, and he just proved that. And I love that they're practicing with the twos because these guys can ball, these guys can play, and I like these guys more than I know that we have some Caleb Johnson lovers and stuff like that, but Caleb Johnson has not performed to the level of these guys. I know that he flashed a little bit last year, but I'm excited about these guys. So it's nice to see that they're getting some practice with the twos, and hopefully these guys can show why they're why they should be the backup linebackers, and hopefully one of them can kind of push Matt Adams out a little bit. I like the young talent and giving them opportunities on this young emerging defense. But like I was mentioning before early on, we don't know. Switching over to the secondary, didn't seem like the secondary won. It seemed more like maybe the wide receivers lost today. So overall, though, people were being covered and there's a lot of pressure overall. But really, that about wraps it up. We're going to keep this kind of quick and short. So tomorrow, like I was mentioning before, I'm going to be going live and breaking down who to watch for on Thursday. Football coming up again. And just like we did last time, I'm going to have the list of who to watch, but also something to watch out before we leave. Just some people that might be cut. We already saw Carson Taylor get cut today. And he was I was a fan of him because I've heard from other people, other sources, that people were excited about him in rookie minicamp. But unfortunately, he didn't live up to the hype and he got cut. Now we're waiting on 4 more players to get cut. Maybe Sam Kamara. I didn't like that, but maybe you don't cut 2 defensive ends. But there's a good handful of people that will be cut tomorrow when the Bears whittle it down from 90 down to 85. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be recording again tomorrow. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Just search for Unbearable Sports. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify, on Apple Music, because for every 5-star rating, we will donate $1 to the Thorn organization that fights against child trafficking. So it's absolutely incredible cause, and it's led by Chicago Bears fan Ashton Kutcher. So you can't ask for a better cause. And also, I donate 20% of what this show makes out there. So thank you guys so much for supporting. And also make sure to follow Thomas Loper at T_Loper1 on Twitter. He was the person that kind of sent over some of his notes to help me out with this. He was going to be on the show, but wasn't able to make it. So big shout out to him. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.